All right, hello everyone, welcome back. My name is Swizz here with another edition of Level Up Mental Health. Uh, Good kind of skill we're going to talk about here. It's actually one of my favorite skills that I've learned kind of going through my clinical journey here. It's another kind of DBT skill, a little bit of kind of cognitive behavioral here. But essentially, the goal that we're going to be practicing here is a nice way to remind ourselves of the things that we have in our life that we may often tend to bypass due to, let's say, if we're feeling super depressed or just really kind of down about where we are. It's a nice exercise that we can practice here that I'm going to provide information about that I'm hoping that we could utilize in our life here. It's a great way to be able to, again, just sit down with what is there and what kind of, is throughout your entire life, what kind of makes up you, and it's a good kind of refresher for that. Now, essentially, the goal when we're doing these kind of assignments and these worksheets is that you're just spending the time to just sit and really just kind of be reflective with certain things, to be mindful about yourself and what's kind of happening. Um, so it has kind of the vein of being able to just kind of create. It has, well, it's a little example we'll show here, but it's constructed in a way where you're able to really just kind of dig deep and think about certain things that are impactful to you. Okay, so let's share the skill here, and we'll go from there. So the activity itself is called building a life worth living. So first we want to define what makes up a life worth living, right? So certain things to, you may not have the answer. You may not be able to kind of recognize what that is. And that's what the skill is going to try to practice, is to do these things to remind ourselves of the things that we do enjoy. Certain behaviors that may lead us to make it difficult to think about these things and think about, what is the purpose of life and what do we enjoy out of it. Things like, the drug, alcohol, self-harm, compulsive problems, depression obviously can kind of impact with it. Really make it hard to recognize that. So, I mean, this section here kind of talks about dreaming and be able to kind of think about dreaming. And in a way, it may sound kind of silly in that sense of like, oh, like, well, what's the point? We're not based in reality, right? Well, the goal is to be able to kind of, be out there and kind of think about these things and see, especially if there's anything that can be, something achieved. And, we may feel that we're not deserving of that. And ultimately, what we're trying to do is that, remind ourselves that, at the end of the day, like, our life is worth living, right? That we are worth it in the end. There's an exercise I think I did, I think it was earlier, about the personal bill of rights. Like, knowing that you have the right to these things is key, right? So I'm just going to just kind of jump to the exercise here. So this is kind of the instructions for how to do this exercise, the DBT house exercise. So for the goal for this is that first you want to be able to draw an outline of your house to include a floor, a roof, a door, a chimney, and 4 levels, and a billboard or a sign outside the house. And essentially what you're going to do is you want to follow these instructions here. Now, if you're watching this video, just you can kind of pause it and kind of follow along here. But you want to kind of go along and define what each of these are. So, for example, the foundation on the floor of the house, you want to write the values that guide your life. For the walls, write anything or anyone who supports you. For the roof, name things or people that protect you. For the door, write things that keep you hidden from others. The chimney, coming down chimney, write down ways in which you blow off steam. The billboard, yard sign. Through this, we want to write things that we are proud of. We want others to see. And through each of the levels that we have, right, we're going to make a kind of a 3-story house here. The first level, we want to make sure that we are listing behaviors that you're trying to gain control over or areas of your life and you want to change. List or draw for the level 2. We want to list or draw emotions you want to experience more often, more fully, or in a healthier way. For level 3, we want to list all things that we feel happy about or you want to feel happy about. And 4, list or draw what life worth living looks like to you. So the goal is this is what the house should look like, right? I probably should have showed this first for what you want to draw the house to look like. But this is the ultimate goal that we want to have, where drawing our DBT house, of what we're trying to have in here. So there's the foundation, the door, the level 1, 2, 3, and then 4. And then this is kind of a good description for what it is. And this is a nice kind of blank copy to kind of to do that. But like I said, it's a good exercise to practice again if you feel you just need another thing to really just be reflective on what is a life worth living. So try this DBT house. Take a few minutes, and then when you're done, one of the questions to ask yourself is, while going through this, what emotions, what feelings kind of arose? Were there times where you felt that you're writing it down and you didn't truly believe it? And what were the reasons as to why you may not believe what you wrote down? So a lot of kind of, I always kind of think of, would you think about kind of yourself, being able to kind of think of like a way where it's like you have a question and then you ask a question to that question, or you ask a question to that answer, and you continue kind of get down so you can kind of get the root of where you feel it may lie, right? So that's the ultimate goal. Hopefully the skill was helpful, and otherwise, we'll check you next video. So thank you for watching.